Awesome. So if you'll see up in the corner left of your screen, the little red button indicates that we're recording. Again, welcome everyone. This is our P&P Committee of the Oregon Board of Chiropractic Examiners. We have quite a few agenda items for the, I think Seth, you had the substances and
supplements.
Yeah, supplements. Thank you. Before we get actually into the nitty gritty of all these, I want to pose it to the group whether we want to combine them like we did the minor surgery policy, if you remember, where Dr. Yazvac had all the different kind of minor surgery and all these things that were separate, and then we just pulled them together as to which topics fell in minor surgery and which were within scope and which weren't. And so we just kind of did it as a whole policy rather than the individual ones. So I wanted to
like that format. Yes.
I think for me, I think that makes sense. Yes.
Okay.
I think that was helpful too, because like my cosmetology, it was a lot of overlap with that.
Yeah.
So I think it worked out well as my thoughts is too.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, then, sorry, I'm taking notes and trying to talk at the same time. I guess we just need the overall policy name, and that could be, oh, here's Dr. Fuses. Hi, Lisa. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Really quickly before we move forward, I just actually finished telling this group that now with the new ethics rules, this subcommittee of the board is a public meeting, and so it's recorded. So you're now being recorded, and the agenda and everything will be posted on our website. So just going to have heads up. What we were also just talking about was whether the group wanted to combine all of these individual policies into an overall supplements and substances policy, kind of like what we did with the minor surgery policy. And so the overwhelming kind of vote is a yes to do that. Okay. So, and am I saying this right, Seth? Substances and supplements, or is it supplements and substances?
I think it was substances. Oh, I'd have to look.
Okay.
Honestly, I think I just copied and pasted the title. I think it was supplements and substances. Bring
Okay.
up the old P&P here.
Oh, you have it here actually in our agenda, number 15. The remaining one was substances and supplements. So
okay.
Does that make a sense to bring that one as the kind of the
overarching?
Thank you, overarching main.
I would think so, because basically it says, yes, you can use certain substances, certain supplements, and here's a list of, because that list that was in that P&P, some of those things don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's just reading through them and doing this work, it seemed like this stuff just got brought to the board intermittently, and it was like, well, we'll just make a P&P rule for it. So I think it's a very, dynamic, shifting list, but as far as a generalized rule, like, yes, here is what you can do, but you cannot use drugs. That was the kind of one important thing as far as what is allowed and what isn't allowed.
So let me, if it would help everyone, you want me to share the screen for that substance and supplements policy, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Sharing. And y'all see that okay? How's that?
It's good.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
And so, and frankly, my next question is, do you want me just to bring this back to the group as a consolidated full-on policy and create one that has them all listed out and the ones that aren't in scope listed out aren't in scope? Or do you want to work on this today? Because we have the red line version that I kind of want to work through as well, which is the overall main document.
I'm kind of happy for you to come back with it. And then one of the comments that I just felt like making was when I was reading the homeopathic one, and that it was saying someone certified in homeopathy can like mix the homeopathic remedy. And I would hope that we have a generic term that says this doesn't limit the capacity of, you know, whatever it is, if you have other certifications or licenses, right?
Mm.
It's like, because we're just focusing on what chiropractors do, and if we
Yeah.
have like a homeopathic certification, that's like not in our scope to regulate anyway,
Right.
potentially. So whatever kind of generic statement that just says, of
So
course,
this-
if you have further, you know, whatever, and you have an expanded scope outside of chiropractic, then you can do that, right?
Yeah, so not intended to limit those with who are otherwise licensed.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
have it expanded scope through other, you know, other certifications or. Yeah.
Okay. The other question when I was reviewing them just briefly was the Oriental Herbs draft. And the language caught my attention because it was a little bit odd. But I wanted to know how these would be different than the botanicals, or could it be combined with botanicals and herbs?
It probably could. This was its own line item in the substances and supplements kind of area. And I agree, it's kind of an odd term because it is kind of sweeping of like, well, what actually falls under Oriental herb?
Right.
But I don't know how much we want to limit by definition.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like botanicals and homeopathics and stuff. Like, yeah, you can use them, but what constitutes them?
Right.
I have an update for the language of what that would be if you wanted to include it. I mean, there's like Western herbs and there's traditional East Asian medicine. So the traditional East Asian medicine is kind of currently the way it would be phrased.
Okay. Thank you.
But there's also, you know, Ayurvedic
Mhm.
herbs, so that's South Asian.
Right.
But if you wanted, you know, really, I would say if it's available over the counter, then it's, you know, if you can, and it's an herb and whatever, it's in scope.
And I wanted to bring up the botanicals because I mean, it was clear, Seth, that these were all just kind of what you've seen in the PNP. They were all just random questions that the board received over the last 30 years and that they were kind of thrown together in this way.
And some of the notes that I had picked up from your conversation addressed specifically like the compounding. Like one of the issues that was in the notes that I saw for you was like compounding not allowed.
Mhm.
Like, but if you are
Right.
certified, if you look at the pharmacy OAR, it's like you can compound if like you are certified for it. And
Mhm.
botanicals sometimes can fall under compounding. So you're in this kind of gray area. And the Oriental herb was kind of like, I mean, I have to admit it, I still hear people say like, do you use Chinese herbs? I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll just take all that into consideration and come back with figure out how to bring all these together. Were there any in this list, Seth, that really weren't relevant anymore? Like
The ones that weren't relevant, I think I sent in. Let me look at this email that I sent out. Yeah, like the AquaSoothe. Don't know what the hell it is.
Okay.
When you look
And-
it up, like it now pertains to like a colonic, but it's a clinic called AquaSoothe in Kalispell, Montana.
Okay.
Don't know what that is. Maytal and Fibersonic, those apparently have been discontinued and don't exist anymore. Myocide, I couldn't find anything that was actually myocide. I could find something called I had to look it up again. Mycosicide. It was like an antifungal cream.
Uh-huh.
But that PNP clearly stated multiple times myocide. I don't think you would have multiple misspellings.
Yeah.
And I could not find anything myocide. And Vitacell, that was the weird one. Because the original PNP said you couldn't use it because the main carrier was a drug. But when I look into it, Vitacell, number one, I can't even find if that Vitacell today is what they're talking about there. But the information on the Vitacell that I could find, even through Kaiser's like pharmacy,
Mhm.
didn't really indicate anything about a drug. It's like a mix of vitamins and nutrients that are designed to basically be a supplement. But I saw nothing in there about a drug. So I don't know if it used to have a drug in it somewhere and they discontinued it or took it out. So, and my feeling is some of these things I think we could remove. And if someone questions it, it could be taken to ET, what is it, the experimental substances?
ETSDP, yeah.
Yeah, it could go to there instead of making a rule for something that I'd hate to make a rule and have it be like, oh, that's not what this is anymore, but you said we could use it. So now
Right.
we're using it. And we fall into a pitfall of like, well, Vitacell now contains something it didn't used to, or
Mhm.
vice versa.
Okay,
I have
Well,
a
then-
question that
go
is
ahead.
regarding the use of like psilocybin or CBDs or anything like that. You know, CBD can be used for several different conditions. Is any of that included in the substance and supplements?
Well, for psilocybin, we actually have a separate policy I thought we just had. And then also for CBD and THC, we have a policy already established.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
I
I'm
saw that in your
unfamiliar
list
with it.
also, and I didn't write one because I was like, I don't want to contradict what we already have. And my
Okay.
feeling is it's
But it
not in
wouldn't
here,
fall
so
under this topic?
I think that's a good point. And it kind of dovetails into something that I was gonna say in that I'd rather not have a list of all the things that fall under our definition, as allowed,
Hmm.
because that list could go forever.
Yeah.
People kind of get fixated on lists. I would
Yep.
rather have no list. However, we could have a list of exceptions, which could be psilocybin and CBD, and we could reference those policies for the reader because those are, natural living growing things that but because of other legal
Mhm.
reasons, because of the legal reasons have different,
Yeah.
use. Yeah.
Okay. I will do what I can. I may have different versions our next meeting. So we'll have one that like doesn't have the list and very, very short and sweet, and then one that does have the list. And depending on, how the group wants to move forward, we can, but I agree with you, Lisa. I tend to not like the lists because they just get added and they get complicated and we have to upkeep them, frankly, a lot.
I think for some of the larger topics like botanicals, homeopathics, traditional Eastern Asian medicine, like those I think we should have policies for. But the actual individual product, like fluoromethane, stuff like that, that one I agree. I'm not sure that we should have for individual products. The only one on that list that I thought was odd that I don't know if we need was the nutritional supplement. The way it was originally worded had to do with multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that I feel like should be somewhere more in the
Fee splitting.
fee splitting area because that's
Mhm.
specifically what it listed. And what I incorporated was like, you can do it as long as you don't violate this statute of fee splitting or rule of fee splitting. But it didn't really, basically I rewrote it to say like, yes, you can use nutritional supplements from any reputable company, but you can't do multi-level marketing with your patients because it could be fee splitting. But again, I'm like, that's kind of more business fee splitting than
Right.
nutritional supplement, but it was written that way, so I kind of just incorporated two elements to it.
Okay. Well, I'll work my magic and see what we can come back with in March, I believe is our next meeting. In the meantime, let's pull out the red line. So this is going to be the full document. I'll just if I can find it here. And I tried to essentially I went through with a slash and just deleted all of the topics that we have already covered in policy, that we've already created a new policy. And don't mind the table of contents. I haven't addressed the table of contents yet, but I'm gonna make you guys sick here a sec. And so if you haven't really seen this in a while, there's, 3 sections. So the first one is device, procedures, and substances. The second section was essentially let me look, how did it work? Second section was policies for chiropractors, applicants, and CAs. And for whatever reason, they were separated out for chiropractors and then CAs and then applicants. And so it really just, for me, it made no sense. For the person who originally drafted this, it made sense. And so really, we just need to get down to overall, kind of like why our policies say this is for chiropractors, and then how is this applicable to CAs? It just needs to be brought in line. So let's go through. Sorry, my comments are going to be hard to see. Backs, if we want to do this, so do we want to just go through this? Because it's not now tremendously very long. And if we want to, just go through it with a fine tooth comb and I can delete and whatever. Is that a good plan?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bax 3000 and similar devices, this is the last time that this was touched was in 2013, it looks like. I don't know if this is being used at all. Do you know if anybody is this being used?
Never
I
heard of it.
haven't a clue what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not able to see the paper. It's just coming up as one of the participants. I don't know if that's just my computer. It's just right here below you guys, just like in one of the panels.
You might have a presenter view on, or a view where you are looking at the speaker more than
It says large gallery preview is what I have it on.
What are your other options?
Gallery together mode. Show meeting details. I tried that. That doesn't work. Show background effects. That's not it. Turn on live.
Under view, if you click on focus on content, I think it might bring up the page more.
Oh, wow. That removes everyone.
Yeah.
It's funny. Gallery view for me. Gallery and focus on content.
There you go. That.
I don't have that option.
At the very top, there should be like chat, people, raise, react, and then view.
I have device settings at my top.
Huh.
And then it says show meeting details, and then exit full screen. Then gallery, large gallery together mode. Show background effects. Turn on live captions, keypad, and turn off incoming video. That's what I have.
Are you using it through a web browser or through the actual Teams program?
Web browser. Is that the problem?
I
Because
think
it
might
was
be a
there
different
for a bit,
layout.
and then it left. And that may be why my camera is not working for me too.
Yeah, that could be.
The web browser doesn't always play well with this program.
Okay, because it didn't want to let me in on the other one, and I downloaded the app. I'll try to do it for next month. I'll just listen to you guys today.
Okay. Well, and Susan, so we're just within that the PNP guide, the edited version that we included in the email to everybody. So we're just at the page 5 of 126.
Okay, what's the title of it? Because I have them all downloaded.
Current PP guide.
Got it.
2000.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
2003.
bring it up, and you're on page 5.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
okay.
we're right
It's right
at
on my other computer. This is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah. So we're right at the Bax 3000 and similar devices.
Gotcha.
I wonder if we can archive. I mean, so this looks like it went, and it went through the ETA SDP process. So I would hate to like have it be gone forever. Because it was a conclusion of that committee and the OBCE at the time. How do we?
I mean, we could make it into its own policy, and it was as of 2013, this has been the policy.
Yeah.
If I may.
Sure.
Reading this, I find it bizarre that you can't use it for diagnosis, but you can use it for treatment. What? I mean, if you're going to diagnose somebody with food allergies and you can't use this particular machine for that, but you can use it to treat? Huh? That seems like a disconnect to me.
Treatment modality. Well, what's interesting is that for the treatment modality, it's not considered standard. So there's 3 different levels for the ETSDP committee to come back to.
Right,
And so-
investigational with moderate risk, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because usually what can come out of that committee is just that it's investigational.
Mhm.
And then usually I've not seen that it's like you can't use it at all. But if it's investigational, then you just have to do this informed consent step.
Yeah.
So I've
I
always
just-
felt like we should be able to just remove things from scope a lot easier, but
I just looked up how it works, and apparently the desired effect supposedly is to reprogram the nervous system. That being a neurophysiological approach, that would, at least in my view, become under the purview of a chiropractor. Since we are neurophysiologists with an orthopedic focus, at least that's how I define us to the public, that might actually work. I'm curious now.
Well, Eric, do you want to take this on to draft the policy?
Lay it on me.
Okay. So I will make a note of this.
Do I have access to the ETSDP conclusions somewhere?
I will look. That's going to be taking a little bit of archive deep for me. Yeah, so I'll see what we can do and what we can find in the archives about that.
Because it seems to me that, if it's disapproved outside the scope as a diagnostic procedure, but it does seem to be marginally approved with I assume with the appropriate informed consent, then that's bizarre.
Yeah.
That needs looking into.
Okay, we'll find that, and if we don't find it, then that's going to give us a little bit more information too. Frankly.
Indeed it
So-
will. And meanwhile, I will do some in-depth on this machine to
Well,
find out
yeah.
how it works and
Yeah.
what the actual risk might be to a client.
You look it
Yeah.
up. There's some.
The only risk I can think of is that it doesn't work, but that's true of all treatment.
taking money from people, that's the risk.
Yeah, that's right.
And prevention from actual diagnosis, so you have delayed treatment too. So it looks like it is a laser and it uses quote digitized allergens, but it uses a laser to treat allergies. It
It's
had
also
an
called
FDA,
NRG.
it had an FDA warning letter that order to stop claiming that the biofeedback plus laser system works for asthma, allergies, autism, and other ailments. So there might be more stuff to that. I'm a little.
I will do a dig on this thing and find
Okay,
out.
good.
Awesome. Thank
There's a
you.
clinic in New York that still uses it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it looks like it's
that's
still out
great.
there.
I'm from New York. That should be easy.
Yeah,
All right.
It's in Nanuet.
Okay, so then the next one, thank you, Eric, for taking that on.
My pleasure.
The Bioptron light therapy. I was wondering if this was included in our light laser therapy policy. If you want me to pull that up, I can.
I would say delete that.
Yeah, from 1995.
Doesn't look like it went through any official process. And I think our current policy would cover it.
I thought
I
so
don't know
too.
if that particular one would or not, but I don't
Okay,
think it's necessary.
we all good with the deletion?
Yeah, I am.
All right. CPAP machine ordering.
That's interesting. CPAP. So if you order a CPAP, I would, that's an interesting thing because if you're ordering the CPAP, that means you're kind of assuming care of most likely sleep apnea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
and that would involve somebody actually doing the sleep study in his clinic. That
Mhm.
doesn't seem likely.
and the CPAP, getting it set up with the patient can take months and is quite a thing. And requires constant feedback. And generally when people need, that, they have a risk of death from the sleep apnea and all that. And, there's a lot of things that can go wrong too with using a CPAP, including, burst eardrums and stuff like that. Um, that one's interesting. I might want to discuss that more, or that could be its own policy.
Well, as I
Yeah.
read this, it says ordering a CPAP
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
or
but
a
why-
sleep study. So you can order a sleep study. Now, most of the sleep study places have CPAP machines that they prescribe, and I'm thinking of one doctor in particular who has multiple brands of CPAPs that he hands out willy-nilly.
Hmm.
So
Right.
to be able to order a sleep study, yeah, that should be within our scope. And then hand over the patient to that practitioner who does the sleep study for that particular issue. That seems to be within our scope. But
Agreed.
you're right, ordering a machine, oh my God, no.
Because you have the responsibility of helping the patient use it
Mhm.
correctly, and so you're kind of assuming primary care of that sleep apnea.
Actually, I think wherever they get the CPAP machine, there's a company that actually, because I know several people who do the CPAP, and it's not the doctor that goes around and helps them figure all this out. It's the company that sells a CPAP machine. They have their own technicians that come by and help with the monitoring and making sure everything's fine and all that. So
Fair
the
enough.
doctor really isn't even involved.
I'm
So
not
then-
really talking about physical hands-on helping the patient. It's more the responsibility. Like if you're ordering that CPAP, you're responsible for the continued care of that. I just don't know if primary care of sleep apnea is within the scope of chiropractic. Much
I would
like
agree with you
psychological
there.
counseling, we can't be primary for psychological counseling, but we can be an adjunct.
Right, I agree with you. I'm just saying that, the doctor kind of, at that point, if they say a CPAP is needed, they don't actually go beyond that. They may check in and have them come to their office and look at some, when they do their sleep studies, look at the study itself and make recommendations, but they're kind of divorced from the machine aspect of it. Again, it's the company, the techs that take over. But I agree
reading
with you. I
those,
don't think
the
the DC
findings,
should be
you
that.
know, getting that report and making the clinical
Right, I agree. That's outside
decisions,
of-
that's where that responsibility comes in.
So if we wanted to draft a policy with regard to, and to me, this feels not so much focus on a CPAP machine, but the sleep study, right? So it's within the scope of a chiropractor to order a study.
Yes,
Um,
and that's what it should
certainly.
be, and forget the machine.
Yeah.
So we could delete the CPAP reference to CPAP machine and just rephrase it to be, a sleep study.
I think that would be a very prudent measure.
I agree.
Okay, so let's change this to sleep studies. Maybe.
Yeah,
And then we can create a new.
Do we
All right.
have a policy already about what kind of diagnostic tests we can order? I feel like we do,
We have, let me look at my list here. Hold on.
because I would just put sleep study in that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So we have the diagnostic imaging policy.
Just
Um,
imaging, but we can also
I-
do lab work, so.
so
We have
there
that
should
kind
be
of
a
thing
lab
too.
one.
Yeah, let me look.
Here's a bizarre question. Let me just throw this out.
So
Would
sorry,
there be-
Eric. So we have the laboratory studies policy as well.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, would there be any benefits to this document and chiropractic in general if we were to take diagnostics as a group and say, use the phrase, any and all diagnostic procedures taught in accredited chiropractic colleges
Well, yeah.
as being within our scope.
I can order an ultrasound for, if I suspect someone has DVT or something like that, but I've never been trained in that. So I would still want to be able to order.
I was at
That-
least trained in the diagnosis of DVT and the different tests that we needed to do to confirm it. One
enough.
of which was deep vein ultrasound. So
Yeah, okay,
under, you know, so I mean,
Fair
I
enough.
had training to order it.
fair
is
enough.
where I'm
So,
going.
so as far as I mean, back to the sleep tests, so would it fall under laboratory study policy? I mean, if you remember,
I
we
think
had to
so.
perform,
think
order,
so.
interpret.
I think it's
I
a great
think
place
so.
for the sleep study under the labs, because that's where you take the study. You go to a lab.
Yeah, this one says has reference to CLIA, which is like blood draw kind of stuff,
Right.
oversight.
Do we want to make a reference to, which this also includes sleep studies?
Yeah, I mean, I would almost want to combine similar to what Eric was saying, all like diagnostic testing to include imaging, lab tests, special
Well,
tests. I would almost say that sleep study is a special test. They're all for diagnosis.
So here's our diagnostic imaging.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
just find that phrase, as taught in accredited chiropractic colleges, to carry a great deal of weight when you're talking about stuff with other practitioners.
I understand. I think there might be a difficulty with enforcement for that, because if a provider says, well, I was taught that in school, and everyone on the board is like, well, I don't remember being taught that, and they didn't go to that same college
Well, then they
or
would need,
university,
then they
would they
would
have
need
to
to pull up
have?
the curriculum from that school and prove it.
Mhm.
I could
I
do
mean, we
that.
would have to, you'd have to get like someone from the school to testify if it's taught or not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so for as far as the sleep studies themselves, is it redundant to include? Is it just implied include in the lab studies?
I think I think I would prefer something like that. You know, this is a really big issue with the DOT physical exams, and you're working with specialists all the time. And so in order to provide that service, the medical examiner needs to be able to order and work with that specialist. And so I see a little bit of difficulty in trying to get that language together to where there aren't limitations in what a chiropractor can do as far as getting the medical exams for the drivers completed. And it may even, you know, there's problems sometimes with all of the procedures that have to be performed in the DOT physical. If you can't do one of those, then it could become a very big issue. But you know, but I'm more worried about just being able to order, you know, much like you would do an X-ray. You know, and then you read the report, you know.
I agree. I think we could combine all of this into just diagnostic studies, or something like that. And so we have the perform, you know, so here we have, this one was with laboratory. It's like, yeah, you have to have your CLIA certification or whatever. And then you know, if you do x-rays in the office, you have to have adequate equipment and have that certified, right?
Mhm.
You have to have it registered if you have an x-ray in your office, you know, that kind of thing. Essentially, it's just a reminder, follow appropriate oversight regulations for any of this. If you're doing a sleep study in your office, people can do these sleep studies at home, you know, sometimes that doesn't work. But I don't see why if a chiropractor had, for some reason, all the equipment to do a sleep study in office, why they couldn't necessarily, but, you know, basically under that order section, you know, this one we could open up easily, you know, any active Oregon licensed chiropractic physician may order any type of laboratory testing, diagnostic imaging, right? Because I think that's how it has it for ours as well. And special tests and special tests that are clinically indicated. And then as far as interpreting, you know, it also comes down to appropriate training and within our scope again, you know.
So
I-
Lisa, can I give you these two, the laboratory and diagnostic and the CPAP language, and have you
Okay.
just draft an overall?
Okay.
Because you have great language to combine them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And just as an added comment, so it is a requirement on the medical review board, the certified medical, not board, the certified medical examiner, that they send them to as sleep specialists for testing. So,
Yeah, we should
you
be
know,
able to refer for any of that. Yeah. And I'll include in the language like order or refer, you know, I'll open it up.
What the hell is CTD Mark 1?
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, that was my question.
What is this?
The CTD Mark 1 multi-torsion traction something
The hell is
From
that?
95?
from 95.
the-
I mean, I think we have a mechanical traction policy. I think this falls within.
Yes.
Okay. So I will delete that. The EpiPen. So we have a local anesthetics policy. So let me pull that up. Ugh. At least I thought we did. Maybe it was manipulation under anesthesia.
What the what was it? The anesthesia?
The
It's just minor.
EpiPen.
Oh, EpiPen. Yeah, but are you talking about minor surgery? We have
Is there emergency procedures?
I did cover that under minor surgery, the EpiPen.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, that's not what we want. Hold on a minute. So this was EpiTouch hair. So the EpiPen wasn't under here.
No,
Cass,
it doesn't look
Cass.
like it.
there's EpiTouch. Maybe that's what
Yeah.
you were.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Craig.
and Jackie was kind of alluding to the emergency part, because that'll
Oh.
fall more in the emergency section.
I think
Sorry,
that's great.
I wasn't hearing that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me pull that up.
Because this would,
Craig.
it seems like it'd be much more appropriate in that section.
Do we need to even?
There we go.
In it? I mean,
EpiPen.
if we're
There it
allowed to
is,
do
right
first
there.
aid, that's part of first
Oh.
aid.
We can get rid of it.
Yeah, we can get rid of it.
Great.
It's here in emergency. Thank you. I wasn't registering that. Perfect. So we can just do away with our EpiPen.
Ta-da!
Done. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so then all this stuff, as we just saw, was in minor surgery, micro peel, microcurrent, blah, blah, blah. Toughness was also within the new policy format. Traction devices we already have. Acupuncture was already dealt with. Allergies. Do we want to have a separate allergy policy?
I
Do we
don't-
have it?
I thought we did one. What did I do? I thought I did one on allergies. Is that food allergies?
Oh, allergy and food sensitivity. Let me look.
I think we should definitely be able to treat allergies
There we go.
because
We got it.
it's a huge
But that was for testing.
spectrum.
Oh, yeah,
But
it
if
was
you-
Testing,
for,
not for treating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
testing and not for treating. Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm thinking of treating is just to have people modify their diet. But yeah, you're right. You're not really treating the allergies.
Yeah, but I mean, there's
Um,
other options for allergies. There's NAET, there's
Over the counter, there's.
homeopathics.
That's right.
I
Over
mean,
the counter. You're right.
there's-
Totally. I don't
you could
think we should
also
take
use
it
the
out of
Vax
scope.
3000. I mean, just
There you
saying.
go. I'll tell you more about
I
that.
saw
when
one of
I
those
come
on
home.
eBay. No, just kidding.
so what do we want to do with this, the allergies framing here, since we already have an allergy testing policy?
Well, treating allergies is definitely within scope because we could prescribe Flonase, which is an OTC for seasonal allergies.
There
So
you
do we
go.
want
Do
to
we need to say
modify?
that? I mean, couldn't it just be understood that we could take care of patients with allergies? I mean, does it have to be stated we could take care, seems odd.
I mean, can you actually just modify our current policy to say allergy and food sensitivity testing and treatment?
And treatment policy.
Yeah.
So let's bring this one back. And
I think the allergy and food sensitivity already went through the board for approval.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it did. But we can modify it and we can bring it back.
Yeah.
So include treatment.
You know, if we have a combined diagnostic testing and all of that,
Mhm.
the special tests for allergy and food sensitivity would be included in that
Would indeed.
potentially already. Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, if you want
But
to do
anyway,
include it.
I'm happy with, so when I think when we say the treatment, do we have like a generic way of just saying,
About management.
management? Yeah, management.
Management, not treatment, yeah.
I just want to say like with generally accepted practices, but something like that for the treatment, but I don't know how the phrasing would go right now.
You
Okay.
could come with them, but management at least says you can refer out, you can treat it, you can do whatever. It kind of encompasses a lot of
Okay,
factors into it. But there might be a better word. We could do a synonym on it.
Okay, so but what we'll just modify then this allergy and food sensitivity to include treatment or management or whatever we want to come up with. Okay.
I like the word management. That way it kind of implies that we're using what's out there as opposed to curing it.
I agree that management sounds good.
You guys watch me type here. Okay. All right. And then applied spinal biomechanical engineering, ASBE.
Is that really still investigational?
This sounds like it's undated though, but this sounds like
yeah.
another thing we need to archive somehow. If we can't find, I mean, yeah, if we can't like look through the old records and find some kind of date or some kind of evidence of it going through the ETP, whatever it's
ETSDP.
called. Yes. Then I might chuck it if it's not even available anymore or,
Okay.
but I would look into that to see if we need to like archive it somehow or, at least keep it an official determination of investigational.
Okay. We'll check on this. So
All right. I'd kind of like to look into that as well because ASBE came out when I graduated from Palmer in 1985. So it's been around forever. And some of the principles of it, at least the diagnostic procedures, are quite valuable if you understand coupling patterns in the spine. So I'm thinking, I wonder if it's still investigational per se. I'll look into that if you'd like me to and see
Yeah.
what's now out there.
That'd be great.
There are people still practicing it.
Really?
Now, I have used some of the diagnostic procedures in my own practice for the last 40 years. So
I'm
So
reading a
when did they
website.
determine something to be not investigational? I mean, does there have to be enough research to back it up before they remove that term? Or
and how much research is enough?
yeah,
and-
exactly.
I'm
And
looking
do
at a
you have to
website.
you have to get to, for example, meta-analyses before you can call it good. I don't know.
Well, there's a guy in Glastonbury, Connecticut, Theo Chiropractic, that claims he is a fellow of the American Academy of Applied Spinal Biomechanical Engineering.
Interesting.
So it must be to a certified in extremity adjusting by Mitch Malley.
I'll look into that.
I know Mitch. I graduated with Mitch.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, okay. I don't know. But yeah, there's somebody, and just look at the photo of this guy. He looks youngish. I mean, so it must be still being taught somewhere. He did go to Palmer, graduated in 1985.
1981. Yep. October of 81.
1981.
Well, this
Yep.
guy says 85.
He was in my class. It was 81.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm
81.
talking about the doctor's website I'm looking
Oh,
at.
the doctor's website. Okay.
Yeah.
But Mitch, yeah, graduated with me.
So I don't know. It's still
Okay.
out there, but now they have an academy of it, so it must be not so experimental anymore.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
check it out for you.
Thank you. All right. So then auriculotherapy was taken care of, automated muscle testing, all these blood pressure and blood withdrawal, bloodborne pathogens, standards, procedures.
Oh, is that the special microscopy stuff?
I don't.
It's an OSHA
know.
thing.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
OSHA.
We have to
Yeah,
do
it's just
training
OSHA.
in
Oh,
our
I see. Yeah. All right.
on campus for bloodborne pathogens.
I think
Okay.
I think it's understood. I mean, that's following all like just
Right.
all, I don't know if we have to restate that in policy to follow the rules.
Yeah. I mean, that was
Follow
that was
rules
kind of my-
established by other organizations. Let's
Well,
get a
if you
policy
saw
on
some
that.
of the letters that we're getting, I think, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Whatever's useful.
Um,
I think
but
we
that's
can get rid of that one.
okay. I'm more than happy to delete it if you think it's standard practice and no one, I mean,
I think it's probably pretty established, and anyone who has an employee already knows of all the OSHA stuff that kicks in. And then I was thinking it was like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean
okay.
it's understood.
All right. Contact reflex analysis.
Sounds like an alphabet soup determination again, and to check archive and see. Yeah.
So clearly we've had a board meeting. I mean,
Two
board
on that
meetings,
one.
2 of them. So
2 of them. Yeah.
do we know what this is?
I don't.
I haven't a clue.
But it's within scope.
Yeehaw.
Could it be called something else so we're just not aware?
Oh, I haven't looked it up.
Technique that analyzes the flow of energy in your body, also known as muscle testing and applied kinesiology.
Oh.
Okay, well, that's why.
Oh,
Okay.
Interesting.
well then, I mean,
Maybe
we
should
have,
call it what it is, AK.
yeah, and let me see, we have, oh, we don't have a current, we don't have a current policy on AK yet. I thought we did.
Just lump it in
Well, we
here.
kind of do under contact reflex analysis. I mean, it falls under there, right?
Yeah, I would do whatever kind of, because it sounds like an official process with an outcome, I would archive it somehow. Or, standardize it
Right.
for our document and not get rid of it necessarily. And if we did, I think we should keep them as an archive somewhere.
That would be prudent.
Okay.
Well, CRA apparently is like trademarked, so it could be just some kind of hybrid of AK.
Like ART and pin and stretch.
Sort of. I mean, I'm on like CRAwellness.com and it's got a registered trademark symbol next to it.
Okay,
Well, it's like the Cox technique versus flexion extension.
Yeah.
right.
Trash is the
Right.
same. Yeah.
But I mean, the photos they're showing look like AK testing.
I think it would be interesting to have AK go to the ETSDP and there would be some interesting discussion.
I mean, this reads like the traditional CRA method uses muscle testing technique to assess and locate dis-ease with a hyphen. Imbalances in subtle energies in your body. Gentle but firm push is like a question, while the muscle reactivity response indicates the answer. So basically, it's AK just with a different name.
Mhm.
Oh, this is that diagnostic procedure where it can be very easily misused. For example, put a vial of sugar in the guy's hand, test the muscle, and it goes weak. Oh, you can't have sugar. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard
I
that
know.
before.
I know. That's why it would be interesting if it went before the ETSDP committee.
I did a applied kinesiology versus CRA, and it says pretty much that also known as muscle testing and applied kinesiology just uses the body's innate knowledge of its balances and imbalances.
Mhm.
There's
So-
somebody in Oregon City that practices it. They're listed on their website, but it's not a DC. She's an MSN.
Interesting.
So, I mean, we don't have, it doesn't look like we have an AK policy or any type of that right now. So we could create one.
To me, that
Do
would
we
be a
need to?
big political stir if it's not being asked for.
I mean, there's, at least within this document, there's no, I just did a search for applied and I did a search for kinesiology and there's no reference to it in those words. There may be.
Mhm. Mhm.
So what do we want to do here?
Maybe the board can decide. I don't, it could be a big project. It could be a big hubbub.
It's almost like opening up a can of worms, isn't it?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Very
Okay, well, we
large
can, I mean,
can.
on our end, we can just check our history and check these
Mhm.
board meeting minutes if we have any. And see what happened with this
Looks like
itself.
there are a couple of them.
Yeah.
Why would they have this in there and not applied kinesiology and muscle testing? Like, I just wonder how this stands out compared to those.
I wonder if
Maybe-
someone was challenged and they brought it forward to the board and the board reviewed it and said, okay. I don't know. I mean, because it is the same, is it not?
Yeah, I think it's just speculation to know what was going on at the time, but
So we
Yeah.
have muscle testing policy. Device assisted.
device
RO.
assisted. Yeah, that's
Different.
genetic physical exam.
Yeah, that's not
Muscle
quite the
testing,
same.
not a treatment system.
So here's automated muscle testing.
So
How
that
is
would
that?
be
Yeah.
the physical therapy devices that are used to measure stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's
within
it.
scope.
So yeah, so there's nothing within the PNP about
AK.
AK. So
Well,
we don't need one. We don't have to have one.
yeah.
I
Until somebody asks, is this within the scope of chiropractors?
Right.
And then we can go to the archives and say, why, yes, it is.
Where
I
am
think
I?
culturally it's within the scope of practice, and I don't know if that's the right bar that we're.
Right.
I'm not sure, but when I was looking in one of the rules, I think it was either clinical justification or someplace, it was written, and I don't quote me on this, it's written somehow that we do not want, that there's many ways of treating a condition and we do not want to limit it as long as they clinically justify what they're doing. I think that somehow that wording came out like that when I was looking into that. So won't that kind of cover this, that we're saying, okay, you can do these things, but clinically justify it?
Yeah.
And so it kind of covers all these different techniques that are out there. We can agree or disagree on these things, but it kind of overarching thing. And I always tell them, well, if I come and investigate, you got to clinically justify this for me. Tell me why you did this, what history, whatever you did. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's like the clinical justification rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a rule.
But do we need to have this policy at all?
Well, we're talking about the CRA.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a EDSTP determination twice. So I think it should be archived. It may not belong right here, but I think the record of that historical determination should be kept somehow, somewhere.
Yeah,
and
I
in
agree
some
with that.
form.
Okay, well, I'll check those. So, craniosacral manipulation.
Yeah, that's obvious to me.
Yeah, that's,
I don't think that's questioned anymore.
no.
It says it's a
that can-
standard
that can
chiropractic
archive.
procedure, but I don't know many chiropractors who actually manipulate the cranium.
Yeah, lots of small child,
And
you know,
this is taught in the schools.
infant, toddler, sure, and
I know it
but
was
then
taught at AECC, but in Palmer way back when, but I didn't know, because I've taught at Palmer, Florida, and also at Western States for a while, and I don't remember them teaching cranial manipulation. I remember Appa was big on it because her brother did a lot of it, but
cranial
um,
definitely a lot in the
yeah.
on the face.
But
I know.
are
So-
they-
and then
SOT
cranial
training has
sacral.
also gotten that.
Yeah, SOT, but that was not something taught at the colleges. That was something that we did on the side, It wasn't in the curriculum. And that's
I
what I'm
believe-
wondering.
I
Is
believe
this in
there's
the
at least
curriculum
one
anywhere?
college that has SOT now as its, no, they taught SOT at Palmer.
No, I had to
wasn't-
go off campus to get SOT training.
No, we taught it at Palmer. I remember the class.
Well, it was after 81, that's for sure.
Yes, it was 83.
Okay, then.
I
We
remember-
do not teach that at UWS currently.
Not
They
currently.
will have to go through current training.
So
We've
they
had
have someone that
interest in it.
teaches. Yeah.
I remember when I went through Western States, there was a day we just learned about it because it's
Yeah.
out
That's
in the
probably
field.
what it is now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, I remember they used to do endonasals and everything in the clinic at Western States.
Oh, yeah.
I
We
taught
still
there.
do.
Do they
Mhm.
still do that? Okay, well,
Yep.
who's
Mhm.
teaching that?
Jenny Nordine.
Okay, so it is being taught there then.
Oh, yeah.
At least, I
Mhm.
mean, that's part of the cranial manipulation, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, endonasal technique is a classic form of craniosacral manipulation, or cranial anyway.
So
Hmm.
on this topic, this seems to be just a named technique.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a named technique for manipulation. This one is
Mhm.
not a high velocity, low amplitude thrust, but it's a musculoskeletal kind of manipulation, and it's just a named technique. So I would
Yeah,
say,
need to
yeah,
I
have it.
believe this one refers to Upledger's work, but I could be wrong.
So sorry,
Specifically,
Lisa.
I think this one was referring to Upledger's
do
contribution.
do we have, so I know that like Washington has a list of the names of the techniques that they At least last time I checked, it's just this huge list. These are all the techniques.
Yeah.
All the named ones. I would steer away or hope to not have to list the named techniques. But do we have a section in rule or policy that says what chiropractic manipulation entails? Because it's not only the high velocity, low amplitude, you know, I mean, there's also mobilization, there's manual therapy, you know, it goes all the spectrum of the HVLA to the
Soft tissue like
muscle
Nemo.
energy technique, you know, with
An
contract,
activator.
relax, and activator, right? An activator, light force. I mean, so and
IQ.
there's upper cervical. So there's all these named techniques that are about musculoskeletal manipulation that I would just they're there. It's a treatment technique that's musculoskeletal manipulation related.
We don't. I mean,
Yeah.
in answer to your question, I mean, I'm just thinking about the CA training policy, the study guide that we're creating right now, and it includes a little bit of that, but nothing for kind of this.
Mhm.
So if we wanted to do something like that, we could. This could be part of that, and we can go
Mhm.
through the contents of this document and create such a thing.
Mhm.
But we don't currently have a kind of a techniques index.
Or yeah, I would hope a generalized language of what chiropractic spinal manipulation or extra spinal, whatever, chiropractic manipulation therapy encompasses. Which then could get,
I mean, is that in our OCPUG though? I'm wondering. I don't remember. I haven't seen the
Yeah.
OCPUG in a while. Let me look.
because I wouldn't
So-
want to limit it just to HVLA.
So a question, because you're talking about the list of different types of chiropractic treatments, but not all of them are taught at chiropractic colleges either. Some of them
Right.
are developed and then taught outside of that realm, and we kind of include them in, you know, just because chiropractors or DOs who are developing new ways to manipulate.
And you can get
Um,
continuing ed credits for learning those too, so.
Well, if you can get
Right.
continuing ed credits for it, then the phrase that
Yes,
needs
in the
to be
glossary
used, taught in
section, we do
accredited
have
chiropractic
manipulation in there.
colleges, and
In the glossary.
appropriate postgraduate education.
Mhm.
So in the OCPUG, there's medical term glossary.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that would cover craniosacral.
Yes,
Okay.
it would.
Okay. Well, then we are good to go then.
Good
You
enough.
just,
Good. All right.
you just solved it for us, Lisa. Thank you. Let's see where we are. Where did my draft go? Okay, so I will just delete this since it's already included in OCPUG. And now cupping. And we had, so just so you guys know, we had someone ask about wet cupping within the last 2 years, and the board had said if we receive an ETSDP application on trying to investigate wet cupping, then we'll take it up. And no one, right, Craig? No one filed the application.
I thought he did.
Did he?
Yeah, I thought he
Because
did.
we actually requested. Oh, that's right. He did request, and then
Yeah, we just couldn't get a committee together.
right.
Yeah,
we
that
couldn't
was
get a
it.
committee. That's right.
Oh. Shoot.
But that was wet cupping. That wasn't generic cupping. But for wet cupping, yeah, we just didn't have enough people who were either interested or schooled in it. Yeah.
Is wet cupping when they puncture the skin
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
so puncturing the skin, I think we have as only for minor surgery or venipuncture or emergencies.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something that I did, I'll admit, purposefully leave out because I thought it opened up too much of a can of worms and I don't know anybody who does it. And it's intradermals.
Intradermal what?
Injection for food for allergy testing.
Oh, that's how you do allergy. I mean, that's how you can do allergy testing. So
Yeah, it's just, but I mean, it's
That's-
kind of in
that's
that minor
kinda is
surgery
a-
because you're injecting, but I felt like
Right.
that really, like I said, I don't know anybody who's doing that isn't like a medical doctor allergist.
Or a naturopath.
Yeah.
Naturopaths do that too.
I would think that's
Interesting.
outside of our scope to do that.
Well,
yeah,
but we can inject, but I mean, our purpose of injecting them is for minor surgery.
right.
So
But that's
Hmm.
not for minor surgery.
no, but that's kind of like the wet cupping.
Mm-hmm.
So this topic cupping, do we have to say dry cupping or wet cupping, or do we have to stipulate which
I
type
think
of
cupping is cupping, and you know,
So we just say yes to cupping.
Well, I mean, you'll see this last sentence here, or you won't see. Susan.
I said yes to
I
cupping.
mean, good
Fair
heavens,
the
massage
the last
therapists do
sentence
cupping.
says no determination was made on the types of cup used, and that was back in 2016.
And that's the type of cup. So you have like a soft cup
Right.
or a
Coffee
stiff.
cup, no. Right, different types
Yeah.
there.
But
And
not
they
the type
also
of
use-
cupping.
Yeah, they also use vacuum, and then there's heat. Yeah, the traditional Chinese medicine, you heat it up the area and then use it versus the suction. There's just different technologies.
So, are we creating a cupping policy?
I think we
could
should
do
just
that.
leave it broad.
Oh.
You could put in an instrument assisted.
Instrument
Oh.
assisted.
We have an instrument assisted,
Myofascial?
yeah, it's mainly for Graston, but I'm just
Tool.
wondering if you can
Mhm.
put this in there.
Oh, yeah, put the cupping in with, yeah, with,
Yeah. Instrument
I-
assisted.
yeah.
Yeah.
Soft tissue.
Yeah.
So throw
Do
it
we-
in the myofascial therapy.
Well, you also have specifically instrument assisted, I think,
Oh.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so if we have a place for the IASTM stuff,
Yeah. Graston, et cetera.
right.
Gua sha.
So we don't
Mhm.
yet have a policy on any of that. We have this myofascial therapy policy.
No, I think there is an instrument assisted.
It's not coming
Let's
up.
add one. And I would add it to myofascial therapy and massage policy.
Absolutely, just throw ISTM in there because it's
And then
usually
it-
how it's
yeah.
used.
That seems appropriate.
And that would help determine what the CA can do too, because if the CA could do cupping, I mean, that question would come up eventually.
Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
And we can,
Do we want to specifically say that wet
It-
cupping is not
Page
currently?
81, Cass.
Page. Oh, of the PMP.
Yeah, PMP.
I was looking at our new policies.
Oh,
It's in the-
sorry. It's in the PMP.
It is here. Okay. Well, there we go.
oh, cool.
Bada bing. Just throw it in there.
So,
Just say including Graston technique, cupping and cupping, something like that.
Do we need to leave Graston in there because Graston was the originator, right, to a certain extent, but now there are multiple companies that
Oh, yeah.
teach that.
Scraping. Let's just say scraping techniques, including scraping techniques, cupping techniques. Well, then that might open it to wet. But
I mean,
I don't know.
you might be able to put like
Board decision.
metal, plastic, rock. cupping.
Yeah, hot stone.
Yep.
Hot stone. Mhm.
okay. So we'll modify that then. Good. Thanks, Craig. I didn't realize we had it. I was looking at my drafts and not the actual document.
But do you think that we need to specifically say wet cupping is not currently in scope? Because
Or under investigation.
Or if you
Yeah.
if you describe the cupping as non-invasive, then you good. Non-invasive cupping.
Well, wouldn't that just be dry
That
cupping? or-
that keeps it superficial and not, and doesn't involve puncturing the skin.
Isn't that called dry cupping?
No
would
say,
people not-
amiga.
No, that, okay.
Technically, yeah, it does kind of encompass dry cupping because there's wheat and heat cupping.
Mm.
Did I say wheat? It should be wet.
Sounds like it's a wheat company.
I was like, wheat, huh?
So what am I doing with this? Am I?
We're gonna
I'm
combine
just-
it with tool assisted, and we're gonna also generalize tool assisted more.
Okay. That's
Okay.
elegant.
All right. Good. Okie dokie. So then EMG and surface testing, I think we have the needle
have a thing
EMG
on that.
policy. So
Do we have a non-needle EMG policy? Do we have a surface EMG policy? Is it also surface?
paraspinal. Sorry, just going down. No,
What about in the ones that we've already worked through, really? Like the ones
I think
that
we
this
just had
committee's-
the needle EMG.
Just the needle?
Uh-huh.
Surface
Let me
is
look.
totally, I would say totally in scope. It's just, its interpretation and its clinical relevance is where you're gonna have question. It's not invasive. And it's also, it's essentially just watching muscle contractivity through either statically or with motion.
Yeah.
You could do it on any muscle. It doesn't have to be the spine. I think it should stay within the scope.
I'm sorry,
I've been
Lisa. So
using
what's staying
I've
within
been
the
using
scope?
Surface EMG
Surface.
for 30 years, so yeah.
Yeah, surface needs to stay within scope. But does it need to be said? Maybe it doesn't need to be said because no one's asked the question really. Or do we want to create a policy? Oh, never mind.
We
It already
currently
has been
already have
answered. That's
one.
what we're trying to do right now. Where did we put that answer?
Yeah, so
Or can we lump that in with the other diagnostic testing?
Yeah. Yeah. An EMG. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so combine with or
Yeah, I can do that. do
Yeah,
that.
so, the term neurophysiologic diagnosis, that fits right in there.
So at least you're gonna get on that.
Yeah, and then also that needle EMG, because just to take a look at the language and see if it could be combined as well.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, that list is growing. That's good. Here's the next one that's like nerve conduction study.
So here's the needle EMG
Yeah,
policy.
I'll look at that too.
Okay. So
That one's specific though, because it says on an individual basis to be reviewed by the board. But it might be nice to have that in the giant all-inclusive diagnostic testing one.
yeah,
You
in
know?
this
Would be.
we had this as a separate policy because someone got board approved and then was training other people and that
Mhm,
wasn't allowed. And so that's why we kept this separate, just so that it was clear
mhm,
what
mhm.
was okay. So for surface EMG, then it's going to be brought within the diagnostic policy. What do we want to keep this needle EMG separate, or do we want to bring that into?
Well, I can try to bring it in and we'll just see what it looks like and just see how it works. I could
Yeah,
make a couple
'cause-
drafts,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get back to where we were before. Oh no. Okay. So combining with, okay, good. So then moving on, IRT, rapid eye technique.
So, I think this, so chiropractors can treat psychological, emotional, conditions, but just not be the primary who is, has the responsibility of managing that whole entire thing. But we could definitely, I would say we could do a therapy as long as there's someone else who's kind of like, oh, I don't have a good word for it. If someone
we
was
would-
referring the patient to the chiropractor for this therapy, then that, I'd say we could do it. I think, do we have a policy on, is it in rule or is it policy or OCPUG or wherever it is for the psychological counseling, that kind of
Yeah.
thing? Because I remember that.
Hey, look. Let's see, clinical nutrition counseling. Let's see, psychiatric. I think it's
Doesn't
within
some of this
rule.
fall under the heading of functional neurology?
Yeah, there's overlap. I think,
Counseling patients here.
no, it's different than that. I remember what I believe, man, I feel like it was this committee that worked on it, but it,
Here's lifestyle management. Coaching and counseling.
yeah,
Lifestyle management does not include psychological psychiatric disorder counseling.
right. But I remember that we,
Here.
it is within scope, but we can't be the primary one managing it. And it was definitely with psychological. So if we look at, like, search for that word.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. Hypnotherapy. EEG. Lifestyle management. That's it. Or out of scope is here.
Hypnotherapy, what did we do with that one?
We just said it was outside of scope.
Didn't we just see something that said toughness was back in?
No, these are outside of scope.
Hmm. Where did I see the reference? You flashed past it. Oh, well.
Yeah, it was earlier in the P&P, and I had just taken it out because it was included here.
Could it be in the OCPUG?
Could be. What are we looking for?
Psychological.
Psycho, let's see. Psychosocial. That's it. So
I have a really strong memory on this one. So I just really remember something about that.
it may be in rule. Craig, can you check in rule for me?
Or
For any prohibition on psychological or psychiatric counseling or counseling in general?
oh, okay, yeah, let me take a gander.
Well,
While Craig does that, give me
in
one.
the
I need
meantime-
to take a bio break really quick. So you guys want to come back in
yeah.
5 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will, my apologies, but I have another appointment I need to go to.
Okay.
So.
Thank you for
thanks,
coming
Sasha.
today.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, and
Thank you.
we'll see you at the next meeting.
Thanks. Heather, can you stop recording?